Today's episode is a huge one. We go all the way into extra time with retired Blitzboks legend and former captain Kyle Brown. Kyle won 3 World Rugby Sevens Series titles with the Blitzboks and played 347 matches across 69 tournaments in the green and gold, also captaining the side for a large part of this period. He helped lead them in setting up one of the best team cultures in world sport. Come and spend some time with us as Kyle delves into the full reality of how tough it is to transition from professional sport back into society and how he has been taking on this new challenge in his life. Turn up the volume and enjoy.
Kyle Brown, epic. Thank you for joining us, man. And rugby is mental.
Rugby is mental. Rugby's players are mental. That's
rugby players are mental.
better way to start, yeah.
Alright, agreed. So, what are you up to now? What are you doing at the moment?
Eating lunch.
You know what? I actually knew I was going to say that. I'll do the interview.
It's a full-time, lunch is a full-time thing for you now.
I'll do the interview. Okay, I know exactly what he's going to say.
How's the pay?
Yeah, it's not very good, but
You get food.
you feel fulfilled, It's a fulfilling job. Yes, man. There's a lot happening, and it's just interesting because I think the day that I left, like 1st of June, came around, unemployed now, and there's so many questions running through your head. What's going to happen? Where are you going? What do we do? And then it was like 2 months of having bloody coffee dates. Oh my God, like 100 coffee dates in 2 months. Pretty much with anybody that would sit down and have coffee,
Like us.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I was invited, so you reached that peak where you invited so many people that they start returning the favor.
Shame, poor Carl.
Yeah.
He's out of a job.
Unemployed, let's pay for his coffee. And that's also a fine balance. Like, I know I'm unemployed, or it's your 4th coffee for the day, and you've already paid like 300 Rand for coffees. You're like, then the guy says, I'll pay, and you'll be like, you don't fight it so hard anymore.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, I appreciate that. But I think at the beginning was, where do I go? Do I try to start something alone, or do I go corporate? Because I studied BCom in finance, so I potentially could fit into something corporate. But I think there's a lot of this is going to sound fairly pessimistic. I think there's a lot of problems in South Africa that need fixing. And I think there's interesting solutions for that. I think if you can be part of that, I think there's ways to make money through that. We're trying to look at different models for that, and the one that I'm really passionate about is just after coffee. I'm kidding. Coffee is a good hobby and it's good fun, but it's not going to change the world at the end of the day. The one that I'm really passionate about is helping sportsmen transition from sport to society, and because it solves my problem that I'm in, It's a little bit self-serving, but
a lot of businesses start like it.
Yeah, my issue is that this is a 30-year problem, a 30-year-old problem, maybe even more, maybe longer, and nobody's really doing it well. I think there's segments of society that are trying different angles and fulfilling aspects of it, but nobody is fixing this problem. And I know because it's a really it's a multifaceted problem. It's wide, it's deep, it requires a lot. It's a lot of moving parts, not just on the side of South African business.
Can I cut in a bit? You stated it so well. From rugby back into society.
Yeah, become a functioning, productive member of society.
Why did you put it that way?
Because I think the alternative is that if guys aren't functioning and productive and find their purpose shortly after they play sport, the alternative then is a loss of identity, which results often in depression, which can lead to alcoholism, which can lead to suicide. And I think I've always said that I need to get the stats on this, probably to give it more emphasis.
Yes.
But there are enough cases out there for us to look around and go, yes, that guy's in depression. This person took his own life. One of the figureheads of sport, that you admired for this many years, they've gone and taken their life. Yeah. And you think, but I thought they had it all together. I thought that, and yes, maybe during rugby they did have it all together, or maybe rugby just shelters you. Maybe sport just shelters you, keeps you in this bubble where people want you to perform so badly that they spoon feed you everything. so that performance can be the only thing. You don't worry about anything else. You don't worry about your daily scheduling. You don't worry about this problem. You don't worry about your financial plan. You don't worry about anything, because I so desperately am invested in you performing well that I'll take care of all of that.
Here's your weekly schedule. Here's what you need to eat. Here's your top-up meal.
They're doing a disservice. You know what I mean? Because you're actually not preparing them for real life after that. So it's a nice to have, and it seems like the right thing to do. But, we are 32, 33, 34-year-olds leaving sport with the same world knowledge as a 19-year-old.
I've been saying that for a couple of years now, having worked with juniors.
Yeah.
Is they come out of school, and when I went into varsity, and I was given my class schedule, but I had two options. I could choose the morning class or the afternoon class. Yeah. So there was a little bit of decision making, but between classes was up to me. Do I study for the test or do not? Do I cram? And these boys, they get everything on a silver platter, everything. And
one of my things is when I'm looking at helping guys out, and it's one of the small points. It's actually like scheduling and proactivity. It's a weird, stupid, small thing to say.
I love that.
But once I retire, I can sit on my ass for 2 weeks straight, and absolutely nothing can happen. Nothing. Unless you go out and you must schedule meetings and you must plan. And you schedule a 9 o'clock meeting on one side of Stellenbosch, and you've got a 10 o'clock meeting on the other side of Stellenbosch. You've done poorly.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because if that meeting goes over, 1:45, you're not going to make your next meeting. And but it's fine. People easy. It's not like that. That's all. That whole thing of first impressions lost. This might be your first time you're meeting somebody at 10 o'clock. This might be a job opportunity. You arrive at 10 past or 5 past 10, just 5 minutes late, which often in sport that's overlooked. It's fine. It's lekker. Let's just have the tea.
Here's your 50 rand fine, 100 rand fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I have a laugh about it. There was your job opportunity. There was somebody who might be wanting to invest in your business, but Harry Casual, the real world doesn't work like that.
And something, I think another big issue is we often think the solution is, yes, but you've got to study something while you're playing rugby. You've got to study it, it gives you the balance, and then you sort it for after the game. But it's not like that either. If you finish a degree at 22, 23, and you play until you're 34, you got that degree 10 years ago. It doesn't suddenly make you the most employable person.
I finished my degree in 2015, which was only 4 years ago, and I feel irrelevant. It feels
4 years.
Yeah, it feels like it was. I ended up doing. Now I did an honours in investments through a business school. I didn't feel it was hugely beneficial, but it keeps you current. That was pretty much the only benefit of it. So you say finish your degree at 23, 24. For the next 6 years, you're not done studying. You have to keep brush up. You must do another certificate. You must do another diploma there, just to keep yourself relevant the whole time. So, in a sense, it was probably to my benefit that it took me 8 years to finish my undergrad.
It's fresh still.
Yeah, but that's a difficult space, because there aren't enough structured programs, or there aren't enough programs to cater for everybody. We've got structured programs, but they cater for a small segment that is capable of doing the formalized tertiary education. But then what happens to everybody else?
Yeah.
The ones that actually need help. Because a guy that's probably going to study a degree, he probably knew he was going to study a degree already. Yes. He has the capability. He thought about it in matric. He probably went to a bloody good school that kept emphasizing that on him, that he needs to get into varsity or something like that. And then he's probably got the family support saying to him, we can play rugby, but you have to study.
Yeah.
It's everybody else that we need to worry about. Those are the easy wins.
I found the guys who need convincing don't make it academically. If you need to convince someone that you have to study something, or please go and study, or register this.
Stop wasting your time.
Yeah, this varsity will give you a bursary. They'll normally waste a year of bursary money and drop out anyway.
But we're not necessarily saying that studying is the only option, right?
No way.
So what does it look like for other people who maybe don't want to go study at a university or anywhere else, but how do you create that second pathway for yourself?
So I think
while you're in the
ask around a lot now, I think so much emphasis is these. If we can try and move away a bit from your CV, this was my degree, this, that, because I think a lot of companies are moving away from that.
Very true.
And we have to find those companies. We have to keep re-emphasizing those. Everybody talks a lot about the the skills that people learn in sports and how desirable they are. You know, firstly, the competition is huge. People love a competitive person in the business environment. They're quite focused, they're quite disciplined, they work incredibly hard. They're driven, you know.
They're good with structure?
They're quite good with structure, they're collaborative if they come from a team sport. Even if they're individual sports, they generally have a team around them anyway that they have to work with. So communications are, you know, often quite a big part of that, and that's a huge skill that in sport you might take for granted, but it plays out in real life a lot better than what most people can actually handle.
Yeah.
It really, people actually can't have a conversation with each other, you know.
Can I just tap in there? So one of the things that I imagine you also learn just by being in that team environment is being able to get along with all kinds of people, different kinds of personalities, dealing with conflict and still getting a job done.
Yes, I think one of the major benefits of our country and one of our teams things is that this is something I use in like a lot of corporate talks that I do. I say that we've got, in my opinion, there's 4 pillars of our foundation of our culture. You know, so the first one is inclusion, then it is diversity. So diversity, I think in South Africa gets positioned poorly. Okay. So often you hear like, you know, well the challenges of diversity or this and that. I'm like, but you're not getting it. Then you're not looking at it properly. You know. The greatest thing about diversity is it gives you so many perspectives, so many solutions to a problem. You have a problem and you can either have one angle or within the context of South Africa, you have multiple different solutions to the same problem.
So you're saying it's not a challenge of diversity, it's a gift?
It is one of our competitive advantages to have a diverse team, a diverse group of players. Players that bring different skill sets, players that bring different backgrounds, through different hardships, through different stories they've learned to grow, they've been hardened through different ways. As opposed to, you know, I've got a bunch of analogies, but it's not, you know, not strictly PC, so there's no use blurting it out. But
this is not a PC podcast. We had Frankie on a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Well, fine. I might as well fire off on a story.
Definitely not child friendly.
If you look at somebody, like I always make a joke about the Australian team. So you look at the Australian Sevens team, and they've got 12 guys who are somewhere between like 5'10" and 6'2", generally brown hair, pretty good looking from a decent background. You know, like, wow, that's boring, you know. Like, you know what they're going to do every single time. You know what they're going to do. Maybe
speed limit 60, they drive 59.
Exactly, 59. They get, you know, 2.5 kids and a half a dog and some white picket fences and things. But then you go look at our team, you know, and I reckon looking at our team, you couldn't quite place where everybody comes from, you know. So we always make a joke, like you got the white guys up front, you got a couple of farmers and maybe an Englishman, just for some diversity within that group. Then you've got like the coloured guys who play the playmaking roles, sweepers and fly halves, and then you've got black guys for speed out wide, you know. And we've got so many different approaches to attacking people that once they feel like, okay, well, we've covered this, we've patched this hole, you know, something will change. Something will be very different because then we'll bring a different attitude. We'll attack from that frontier. And that for me has been huge for us. And we've got so many different options on that side of things that we've become so unpredictable. And that's been, for as far as I'm concerned, one of our major competitive advantages is how we've embraced the diversity and how we've used it best to our advantage. And how you buy into one way or you be able to adapt to another way and adapt to another way. Whereas some teams are so linear that this is how we're going to do things. Come hell or high water, this is what we're going to do.
Just, go that way. So that's some of the things that you think you gain from working in a team in a diverse environment.
Yeah.
But I want to also just go into, Andre, you also asked a question or wrote down a question similar to this, but what's some of the drawbacks? You mentioned like planning and being productive and things like that. So what are some of the drawbacks that maybe you should work on as a player? If you're a young player listening now, these are things that I should pay attention to because the system won't be providing these for me. Yeah,
so sometimes I come across fairly negative about sport, but I just prefer to be realistic with people. You know, and I think the conversation starts with a lot of 13-year-olds, you know, everybody's going to be a Springbok, and what do you want to do with your time after, like, going forward? No, I want to be a professional sportsman. And a big part of me wants to tell them, like, don't don't put your eggs in that basket. Don't put all your eggs in that basket at least. Like, I'm happy for you to chase a professional sports dream as long as you hedge your bets. But I don't think that, I think we're all in this country. Every 18-year-old, every guy that goes to Craven Week, every person that's playing first team rugby, he gets sold so much smoke up his knot that he must be a Springbok, and he throws everything at it. And when it all comes to nothing, when it all falls apart, there is no backup plan. There is nothing. Because, again, then there'll be statistics on that. So the number of players at high school level that play first team rugby that make it into Craven Week or an academy week, then how many of those make it into under 19? How many of those make it into the under 21 setups? And then how many actually transfer to open? And then how many make the Springbok setup? It's like the most ridiculous filtering system that ends up with some decimal of a percentage for having a professional career. Especially in this country where almost every kid at high school is playing rugby. So the pool is enormous. So one of them is, the one drawback for me is the selling the dream and almost a bit of false hope. Because ultimately what happens is kids get strung along the whole time. And it's not just rugby. I had a friend who had the exact same thing in cricket. He was a really good club player. And every pre-season he would get called into the Cobras pre-season squad, which is like double, triple what they need. And he would get incredibly buoyed by this. He'd be so motivated, and he'd come in and he would smash pre-season and be lekker, and nothing would come of it. But it's like that little bit of motivation that he needed to keep him going for another year. So I'm going to make it next year. 26, 27-year-old years comes around, and you kind of look back like, ooh, well, I haven't made it into the team yet. I haven't made it into a professional setup. I'm not really being paid any good money. And that's another thing. The payment is that it's just enough to keep you there. So whether it's club rugby, whether it's under 19 or whether it's under 21, it's just enough to be like, no, it's cool. I'm covering my expenses. I'm able to chase this dream. But that's a good time where you can actually start building your career. You finish your degree at 22 or 23 or maybe even 24. 2 to 3 years into that, now you've got some real work experience at 27, 28, where this guy's now realizing, oh shit, sport's maybe not for me. And then sport doesn't care for you. There's no like backup plan for them. He's just like, well, listen, we got 6 more kids from the Craven Week, and you're costing us a bit much, and you haven't quite shown the potential that you did when you were 21. It's 5 years later, we're not contracting you again.
That's it.
And then it's either to a smaller union, you find yourself at Falcons or Border or something, and I think ultimately the story's played out over and over and over again.
You phone the agent, you say there's something in France or Japan for me.
Yeah, and I mean that's, good luck with that.
And that gate's also closed.
Yeah. So that for me is a very, very difficult conversation, because I know that people are passionate in this country, but it's almost like we prefer to be oblivious about what's happening at the end of the production line.
Yes.
End of the production line comes, and it's like, okay, it's like there's a curtain there, and the players go through the curtain. Oh look, bye-bye, enjoy retirement, have a lovely time. And first up, it's not retirement. Like everybody's like, I was retirement. Who retires at 32? Like, I don't have enough money to keep the lights on for more than a year, So who retires at that point?
It should be like a transition from one job to the next.
As far as I'm concerned, it's called job transition.
Yeah.
That's what I've said to everybody. It's not retirement, it's job transition. You just have to find your new path. But it's a hell of a rocky road, because there is no structure. There's no counselling leading up to this point. There is no, listen, you've done and served this company or this sport or this community or this country for 10 years, 10 good years, or 6 years or 7 years. Let's help you with this transition period. Like, this is what it's going to be like in the outside world. This is networking. Everybody talks about sport. You've got a great network and everything. If I don't know how to use a network, if I don't know how to tap into the network, what the hell is the point of the network? So it's all, you've got this wonderful network. What do I ask the network? How do you talk to them? How do you approach them? Because the worst way to go is meeting a CEO once upon a time, keeping a little contact with him, and then walking up to the car, I can have a job. You said you'd help me, why haven't you helped me?
Yes.
Yep. And so it's understanding that you need to show the world that you can add value, and you've got to show what area, what segment are you passionate about, and then actually tangibly going into that segment and saying like, this is how I can add value. And then with that you can, so as like your sort of portfolio, then you can take something, listen, I'm really excited about this is what I've been doing. Is there potentially space for your company to get on board with this, or me to get on board? You know what I mean? Like, so there's positioning on it. And there's so many opportunities for that. And my one thing is that we've got a really, really big community that's passionate about sport in South Africa. Huge. Like, we throw millions at sport every single year.
Yes.
But we're so happy to see these like legends of the game. Just like the cliff is big enough as it is. You know, it's a very big fall if you do it alone. Like, can you just help me step down from this? Is there an opportunity here? And it's not like a charity thing. We're just like, the guys are just looking for a bit of guidance, for one, I think. Probably a bit of awareness too. Like, help me, just make me a little bit more aware of what's coming, you know? The current thing where we have past players coming in and sort of testifying like, yeah, I made this and this is what I didn't do right and now I'm broke. Like, for me, it's not carrying enough weight. I think you've dealt a lot with like an 18, 19-year-old, and they're going to sit there and they're going to look at this guy and they go, you made a lot of cuck mistakes. I won't make those mistakes.
I won't do that.
I won't make those. So your story, not relevant, bro. Jog on. So it's a very difficult thing, and this whole thing needs remodeling. And when I say multifaceted, it's like the player obviously needs to want to be helped. Then the employer, like the rugby employer, needs to put his money where his mouth is, because I've heard a lot of coaches say, no, like, you know, your future is everything for me. I really want you to be prepared for the future. Yeah, can I have an extra 2 hours off here to go study or to go job shadow or to kind of a half day off there? Yeah, but we got a defense session, or there's a video session, or there's a scrum. Or what do you mean you can't? No, you can't have that. No, you get your 1 day off, and that's that, you know. And then it's the community. Then I think that when I'm talking about the sports mad community, I think that there's a lot of really successful business owners, you know, that enjoy what a sportsman can bring to the table. And through a little bit of partnership, I think we can prepare those players to hopefully enter those spaces. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. I think recruitment and employing people is difficult enough as it is for a business. And if we can get you, so when I say like old ex-sportsmen, I think when you say you can offer them a fairly competent sportsman, so well, sure, I'm actually getting something like-minded here. This is somebody I understand right out the blocks.
Yeah.
You know, I know what I'm going to get from a sportsman. Now the difficulty for us is to make him actually employable for that company.
I always used to have a session with the players called leveraging your career. And there was always two facets to it. The first was leveraging your career while you were playing. So you use the strengths that you pick up from being a professional sportsman to apply to other areas of life. But you also use your positioning in your career for life after your career, which is a second facet. So I think you mentioned something which I told the players every single time is phone the CEO of the company or the winemaker or whoever it might be that's in a position of power in a business that you're interested in when you are 19. Come from a position of humility and say, listen, I've just started my pro career. I know nothing about life. I'm helpless. I just want to sit down and have a coffee or a glass of wine and find out what you're about. When you're 19, that's easy.
It's kind of a humbling thing for a guy in that position to get that phone call also.
Yeah, exactly.
You're blown away, you know, like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
100%. Let's
go. And imagine when you're 35 and that CEO sees you on the news, oh, I see Carl Brown has just retired. The next day you phone him and say, hi,
can we go have another coffee?
Can we have a coffee?
And
you haven't had a coffee yet. No, this is the first coffee. It's the first time you contacted.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm interested in whatever you're doing. You know, then you're helpless.
Yeah,
then you're like
a bit different, yeah.
Then it's different because now you're almost begging.
That's completely transparent. You can see exactly what he's doing then, you know.
100%.
At 19, it's like, I'm coming to you, a bit hat in hand, like, walk with me, you know?
Yes.
Like, it's not going to be onerous on you, it's not a massive burden. If we can have a coffee once every 6 months just to keep in touch and see that things are on track. But that is the thing for a 19-year-old to do that out of his own. It's difficult. It's difficult for him to pick up the phone. I find it difficult to pick up the phone and phone those people already, you know.
Yeah.
And ask for help. The other thing is is not really knowing the timeline. So you can, maybe some guy wants to help you and he wants to offer you something and he's like, well, when can we get going? So I think I'm going to play for another year. I would like to play for another 2 to 3, but I'm not really sure.
There's no guarantee.
Yeah, there's no guarantee. So that for me is a difficult space. When you're talking about positioning, for me, I think what we can do a bit better as sportsmen is this social media thing. It's becoming ever more powerful, you know. When guys are doing recruitment, they're looking into employing somebody. I think one of the things they're looking at is the CV, you know what you can offer on paper, on skills and everything. And I think they probably do a good background search on your social media.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
you know? Definitely.
What do you do? How do you behave? How do you portray yourself? And I think if we can start helping guys see the bigger picture of how powerful social media is, and like for instance, let's take an example like Chris Dry. So Chris is a good mate of mine. If he's 32 this year, if say from like 25, 26, he's just finished his QS degree, he, maybe 20% of the, I don't even know what the number is, but if he on social media can start showing a bit of a presence in that space, construction, quantity surveying, I just attended this conference, or I spent a day at power construction, or I'm reading this journal. I'm reading this book on quantity surveying and the new techniques.
Buildings for dummies.
Yeah, you know, and I think if you build again, so it's like it's rugby picture, family picture, sponsor, rugby picture, building. Yeah. Oh, okay, he's interested in, nobody has a clue that I was interested in coffee until you bloody start posting about it. Then everyone's, I see you like coffee. I so I like drinking this stuff, not really that interested in it. But it's how it's positioning. And you can actually forcefully manipulate that. You can do that. You can go, well, what do I want people to see? Yeah, I want to be employable in that area 5 years from now. This is the career line that I want to go into. Load it up there. And it's basic stuff. It's not like you don't have to go and say, this is me laying a brick. Like it's just like spend a day on site, job shadowing, this, and I'm very interested in the, construction world. Or I think there's easy enough ways to educate a person who's educated in that field, if they're educating themselves in the field. JC Pretorius, studying to be an architect. I'm pretty sure he will be, competent enough to make a post every now and then. He showed me his architecture projects, and he's excited about them. He likes the shit, he likes doing this stuff. So easy enough to say, architecture project number 2. I built a hut. Ask social media, what do you guys think about it? What could we do better?
What's great about that as well, everyone following you, every youngster seeing you, they don't only see the sport, they see, okay, wait a minute,
who you are.
Yeah, he's doing this as well.
Look, Dad, JC's going to be an architect just like you.
Yeah.
Pencil him in for 5 years' time.
Yeah,
good kid.
Exactly. And what I also hear you saying, Carl, is this is massive, by the way. I think this is part of a big reason for me personally why we wanted to start this podcast, is to share things like this with youngsters. More voices sharing these kind of things. But what I hear you saying also is there's the player's responsibility, and here are some very practical tips that you can do, like social media, using that. But also there's a systems thing.
Yeah.
So if you could wave the magic wand and change one key thing in terms of how the system works and how to help guys do this transition better, what would that be?
Well, I think my biggest problem is not knowing what I want to do. If I had to wave a wand, I would wave a wand and figure out my passion.
Okay.
Not passion, where I want to go. Because that's everybody says, what are you passionate about? What do you enjoy? I was, whoa, that list is very long. I don't know if all of it can make money. I don't know if there's jobs.
Or it's rugby.
Or it's sport. Or it's sport. And I think that there are jobs in sport. I'm not dead against people being involved in sport, because I think people are super passionate about sport, and I think that there are roles for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, all 5 of those jobs have been taken.
All 5 here at SAS, but I'll find you a new place. So I think, and I know that often comes from the player also, but if there's more emphasis in figuring out your pathway, and I think one of the reasons for me is I like to make decisions based on like research. So I like my things that are like finance, tech, medicine, and sport. So my problem with trying to pick a channel there is I don't know what anybody in these fields do. I think it looks cool. I think finance sounds cool. I think you make a lot of money there.
So are you saying you don't even know what the job?
No idea. But what is the job spec? What does it entail? What does your day-to-day look like? I've had 7 operations in sport. I was interested in medicine, but through the 10 or 12 years of playing, I had 7 operations, and you get deeply, intimately involved with your body. You're like, oh my God, this thing is amazing. It bounces back every time. We can keep going. A little snip and a cut here, and it's like you go watch. I watched a couple of my surgeries, the 3D modeling of it. You can watch an ACL 3D modeling on YouTube. It's all there. It's incredible. It's woodworking for knees. Like it goes and there's proper engineering, and then you can see, and that stuff is so fascinating. And then tech. My first major at varsity at UCT was business science, majoring in IS. Rocked up first day in my commercial programming lecture, and I sat there and this lady was like, oh, this month or this semester we're going to be programming C++, and like half the class chuckled. They're like, oh, easy. And if somebody had just told me like, just stick with it, you'll get through it, but I was like horribly disheartened and like nervous. I literally went to the faculty office that day and I changed to finance. I was like, no, this is not for me.
Wow.
But I love tech, and I love the possibilities of technology and the influence that nobody can deny what influence technology has on our lives, and how it's grown over the last 20, 30 years, and how it's going to infiltrate our lives more and more and more. That would have been a really cool space to go into. And sport I've been involved with for 12 years. I genuinely don't see myself as a coach, but I love sport. I'm passionate about working in teams. I like working with people. And somebody said to me, what do you enjoy? I said, I like working with people, and I like taking something from here to there and growing it. I want to see it move along. Being part of the Seven setup of the last 10 years was, regardless of results or anything, one of the most rewarding things because of how much the entire setup grew. It's not an individual event here, it's not a win there, it's not a loss there. It's just how the whole setup grew from where we were in 2008 to where I finished in 2019. What a special time to be involved with it.
It's a very interesting point you're raising, just in terms of the mental side of these things. Is people talk a lot about being happy and what makes us happy, and the number one thing that makes us happy is progress.
Yeah.
You think about it for a bit. Whenever you feel stuck, I can't make a decision, I'm not moving forward, that's when you become depressed, that's when you become unhappy. But whenever you see progress, if it's part of a system, in yourself, whatever, that generates the joy and the happiness.
Yeah, it creates momentum.
It's just amazing how much of the career stuff that you're mentioning that resonates on my experience working with 19-year-olds. So I've only got observation and experience with what they give me, but you're actually on the end scale of the whole process. Yeah. And I find it amazing how you mentioned about careers. You don't know what a career entails. And it's exactly the same when I sit with youngsters and they're in matric. And we're starting the recruitment process to bring them into the system. I ask them, what do you want to do besides rugby?
Rugby.
There's always, if it's not just, no, I just want to play rugby, then there's a couple of very standard answers. Is accounting, I want to be a lawyer, I want to do sports science, and I'll get back to the sports science now, or engineer, and then the kid's got 40% average and doesn't have maths,
which rules them out of lawyer
of pretty much everything
and engineering and accounting
and playing in the background.
And no one says, unfortunately, no one says minister anymore or dominee. So, but what bugs me the most is, the other one is I'm gonna go something in sport, like a sport manager. But there's no such thing as a sports manager. It doesn't exist. So youngsters, there's no such thing as a sports manager. You're a specialist at something, and then you apply to sport.
So look, if you look at those options.
Sorry, the point I want to get to is that I think the biggest issue is that the advice these youngsters are receiving in terms of careers is poor. I don't think they're prepped well enough because their parents come from an era where you went to study one of the big six or whatever they call it. That's what they studied and that's what they become.
But the career guidance as well is also very
exactly. And the other thing is a teacher. So there's no
ones. You know, I think why those are the most attractive because those are the most well known.
Exactly.
I know a lot about what an accountant does without having been an accountant. I know a lot about what a lawyer does because it's so well publicized. But what does in finance? What does an investment analyst do? You know, what other roles are there? You know, I didn't know that in finance you actually have front end and back end. You know, front end would be, so this is through my discovery. Like people say finance, well, you definitely be front end. I was like, fuck, it's front end. So no, you deal with
like
customers.
Forward and the back.
You deal with customers. So back end is back office analysts. We analyze crunch numbers, give advice to the asset managers. You give advice to the people making decisions. Front end, you're taking somebody's money. So you must go chat to that person. He's not just going to blindly talk to a machine and say, here's 10 bob. You've got to go sit there and you've got to make him feel comfortable with taking his money. You know, and there are people for that. There's a job. So there you need competency in the back end, but not technical like superiority, which like a little Chinese dude doing a CFA and crushes it by 100%. He's just going to smash the numbers and then he gives the numbers to somebody else. Then you sit down with the client and say, listen, you know, this is our portfolio. And then he needs to be able to have the conversation because the guy at the back end might not be very good at that. One of the best things that we get from sport is talking through, communicating a message. And that's, you know, as much as I thought that was such a standard thing in life, apparently a lot of people can't have good conversations.
No.
And business is all about conversations, and conversations would probably be fundamental to relationships, and business is all about relationships. If you don't get the conversation right, the relationship falls flat, there's your business with that person, gone. So it's very interesting to see how all the dominoes move into one place, but what I was getting back to was those jobs are the ones that, like, if you watch a movie, somebody's going to be a lawyer or somebody, and you can see what they're going to do. There's a whole series for Suits, which like makes being a lawyer looks amazing. I was like, we should be a lawyer. We should all be lawyers.
Yes.
It would be great. You can have good conversations and you'd be very rich. Grey's Anatomy, there's an ER, and there's this and that for medicine. So medicine's like, wow. And every single doctor's told me, it's not like Grey's Anatomy, but you know, it still looks cool. There's still publicity.
Doctor in scrubs.
There's still publicity around. There is no there is no light shone on like being a vet or being a nature conservationist. Oh, there's a couple of Discovery shows that I watch.
It sounds funny, but a plumber or electrician.
I mean, you have a lach, but until you own a house and a pipe bursts at 4 o'clock in the morning, you don't know how much a plumber earns.
Yeah.
Until that happens, and you earn that much.
Yes.
I shouldn't be a plumber, you know?
Yeah.
Your call out fee on a Sunday is what?
Yes.
You know, and again, it's because it's how, like, for me, that's a big society, and that's how things are positioned in this country, because we're so good at judging people in this country. You know, we're so good at going like, oh, plumber. Jy deel met die kak, nee. You know, and it's like, oh, it's looked down upon because you're not a CEO, you know, or like you don't own your own, but well, you know, you do, but it's like a looking down on people, it's judging people for what they do, and we're so bloody good at that. We judge for our results, we judge for looks, we judge for our background, and that's literally half the problems that we're currently dealing with in this country is sort of singling people out for their differences.
Yeah.
You know, where I want to be an electrician, I'm really enjoy it. That for me, technically, that gets me going. You know, I like that kind of thing. Oh yeah, but that's gut work. You know, and we can't just be happy for someone in that.
So in rugby, obviously, you have to acquire a bunch of skills, and as a player, you learn how to do that. But it seems to me somehow, kids that I also work with under 19s and so forth, they struggle to translate that to life, to other areas of life. They're like, I can learn to do pass a ball, kick a ball, whatever, technical stuff, I can learn to do that here, but when it comes to other facets of my life...
So they struggle to learn in other facets or struggle to implement in other facets?
Struggle to have that same mindset that I can learn to do things.
I think for me it's context. So if you tell a guy, like if you hit the bag at this angle, if you go over the ball and you're in this strong position, it's big picture, you know. In his head he can see, he's been through a ruck 100 times, he knows, oh shit, if I change my foot position, I'll make a steal. or at least he gets told that, because he
Yes.
thinks, what kept happening to me in the ruck? What kept happening to the scrum? If I changed my body position, all right, that's why I kept getting folded the whole time. You know, you say to him, you change your body position, you can get a different result. You tell him, you need to learn to talk to people better, you need to learn to network better. What does that mean? Where does that even fit in?
Here's where I was going with that. So skill acquisition for me it's become much more available with online courses. It's a massive area where you can go like, I'm interested in this. Well, let's just do YouTube. You were talking about the operation. You can go there and learn about things. Solid stuff that's solid knowledge that you'll find in the textbook as well. You can go on YouTube and learn these things. But it seems to me there's a block there. So also tapping or latching onto your thing about the social media. So yes, have sport, have rugby and everything, but also what are your other interests? And invest some time there, even if it's on YouTube. I know, Andre, you also encourage guys to learn on YouTube, you know. You call it self-learning. I think it's your term.
Yeah.
Go and learn about those things because
that,
you can acquire skills.
That's free though.
Fixed.
Yeah, so that's the thing is it's free. So the moment you tell them, go learn on YouTube.
So there's no value.
And they click and they're like, this is quite lekker. And rugby's calling, and then I'll finish this.
Oh, look, check, here's a dog juggling balls.
Yeah, I'll finish this next week, or I'll finish it never. It actually doesn't matter because it makes no
A squirrel riding a jet ski. Wow.
Yeah. So for me, it's a value thing. You know, I think it's what you place value on, and again, it's bigger picture. If you can't see, even if you pay for a degree, even if you pay 50%, if you can't see the bigger picture of what that adds to your life, there's no real value to it. Monetary sometimes not even enough. You know, 30 grand degree, you get a 50% bursary from the varsity, and you just pay 15,000 rand, which is a bargain for an education. And you're not really sure, and it's a lot of effort. So money is one thing, but it's the effort of getting home from a practice, knowing you're tired, and putting in 2 hours, and everybody else around you is playing PlayStation. You know, that's the most challenging thing. No, like now you've got to do that, and I guarantee you there is time there. I guarantee you that. Like I've been through there.
We once had a player deregistering from a UNISA part-time degree because he said he didn't have time. And like,
I had a chat with the guy also, and I said, how's, let's call it law. He was actually doing law, so yeah, it's not called it law, it is law. I won't mention his name. And he said, no, it's I had to deregister, I'm too busy with rugby and everything. I said, bro, I'm doing rugby with you. I'm in the same program as you, I'm finishing third year in finance. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you actually talking about? You're lying to me because you are, I don't know what you are. You're like a successful businessman on the side? Do you have 5 kids? You have 3 wives? What is it? What are you doing?
Where's the time going?
Where's the time going? Because I know that you have time, and I got so frustrated, but there's nothing really you can do. You can get upset. But the kid has decided now, you know, he's also probably been told, don't stress too much on the studies, just make sure you make it there, you know. And he hasn't made it. You know, unfortunately, like looking down, and I know where he is now, and he hasn't made it to his potential. He was a flippin' good player, you know, and potentially the discipline that he learned and the work ethic that he learned from having rugby and studying as a lawyer could have even served him better as a rugby player.
Because that's
but we see
life.
that. We see guys who, I mean, if you look at shining stars at school, like the big performers in academic sport and so on, they're always multi-talented, always. They're always prefects, and they are good academically, they're good at least one sport, or good with music or culture. There's always more going on, because the moment you start filling your time up with more things, you create a sense of enthusiasm and urgency to get things done and get from one thing to the next.
You realize how productive you can.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's amazing. And no professional rugby performance program will keep you busy for longer than 6 hours a day. I've seen it. There's 6 hours out of 24. If you, as a sportsman, if you really have to sleep 9 hours a day, that leaves you with quite a lot of time.
They don't.
I know they don't.
I mean, 4 hours of PlayStation flies by.
I know, exactly.
All of a sudden it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
I actually sent, so I've been listening to one of those Joe Rogan podcasts.
Yes.
Really good, really good. I said to somebody else the other day, you should listen to those, and he's pretty religious, and I was like, He does get a little crude though, so just be careful. Like, fair warning that he does, a flukkebiki, but they're amazing podcasts just because of the depth that they go into
and honesty.
And I listened to the Kevin Hart one, and I like him as an actor and everything. But what I took out of that was like, oh shit, I'm not doing enough with my life. That guy makes you feel, regardless of how busy you think you are, he makes you feel lazy.
Yeah.
Like just the amount that he's getting done. And I actually sent it to Sissel. I was like, and I said, did you listen to it? He said, no, I haven't listened to it yet. I said, Sissel, I never send you anything. You have to listen to it. You have to. Like, he sits there and he's like, I'm involved with this and I'm involved with that and I'm involved with that. And I schedule this during my shoots. And these people come to me while I'm doing that. And I'm like, what the hell? And then he's got a family and 2 kids who seemed, also you never know how well they're getting on, but they seem to be getting on fine. Between him and The Rock, The Rock is also a freak who does not stop,
Yeah.
But I think that we genuinely don't know. We put this cap on our capacity, and you're like, no, that's as much as I can.
I'm too tired.
Too tired, yeah. I mean, if you find a mother with 2 kids, that's tired.
Yes,
that's tired. You don't know tired, bro.
No.
Even the father of 2 kids is never as tired as the mother of 2 kids.
True.
But it is a difficult space, and I think there's a lot of thinking and a lot of changing on how we approach this that needs to be done, because what we're currently doing is not getting through to kids. It's definitely not getting through. So it's not working. So every year we do the same thing. The current model is like do a Word, Excel, PowerPoint course. Let's do a little bit of financial planning and that and that and that. And it's like this tick box exercise that like they're not really invested in it, and it ultimately does nothing for your employability down the line.
I have a bee in my bonnet over the term life skills. So any sports program that offers life skills, I always ask, what do you include in your life skills program? Because it's so insufficient to say that this hour a week,
this is it,
where you've got a guest speaker coming in to do his 1 hour on financial planning. He does a 1 hour session and he gives you a workbook. Now you've got the financial life skill.
So in my thing with I would actually call it financial awareness, because these days you don't need to know financial planning. Yeah. I have a finance degree and I don't take care of my finances. I have a financial planner who does it day in and day out. He's very good at it, So financial awareness is more important to me, like how not to get screwed on a car payment. Try not to sign the one that says balloon payment. Like, don't do that with a residual.
Don't do it.
Be slightly aware of what the current interest rate is and what you're getting. Just I don't need you to calculate anything. But if the current interest rate is 12 and they're giving you 15, start asking some questions. Why is mine so high?
And another interesting thing that people always take into account is that everyone's philosophy on money differs. So if you kick off a financial session with budgeting and investing, you already lose half of the group because they grew up not having money to save or invest or plan with.
What budget?
Yes, exactly. So I always ask the guys in the first session, whose parents told you that money is a tool that you can work with and make more of? And you have had like 2 or 3 guys put up their hands. Then you have the biggest part of the group, you say, who says money is tough and you've got to really work hard for money and your job is your salary and everything, that's your security, and most of the group got up their hands, and then a relatively large bottom part said there was just no money to work with. So money is a difficult topic to discuss because it was tough at home. There was never enough of it.
Yeah, that changes how it's viewed in
so exactly. So now I've already got 3 points of view, and within each point of view you can change it up even more. I mean, one guy who thinks money is a tool works with property, so he's got a different angle to the guy's dad who trades at home with 6 screens.
Exactly, then he's going to be like, buy property,
exactly.
But it might not be the best thing to do, or
exactly.
might be what you want to do,
So,
sure.
So now I mean, you've got 3 points of view of the money in the group, and you're talking about budgeting, and they don't have a clue. Half the group doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's the first time that they earn money. Some of the kids who earn 10,000 rand a month are looking after their family. They've got a family at home. Single mom, brothers and sisters, and he's actually he cancels his medical aid because he needs more money to send home. They don't see the bigger picture. So you can't just do a one-size-fits-all life skills program.
No. Yeah, that's a very challenging space to be in with money, because ultimately there is never enough.
I want to talk about rugby a little bit though.
Oh, is this about rugby?
No, he did say rugby players are mental. So that we've done.
Yeah.
So you talked about your operation, but you missed a big part of 20...
Operations.
Sorry.
Many.
Yeah, multiple. 2012, 2013, you missed a big part of the season there. But
the whole season.
The whole season.
I played, I think, 2 games in Dubai, and then I broke my ankle.
Ah.
And that was 6-month injury.
So what are some of the things that you used to get you through that time? What are the lessons you learned about yourself and what you're capable of when you're doing
It's a
rehab?
hell of a lonely time.
That's what I wanted to say, because I know you're lonely.
Loneliness.
If you're isolated, you're not part of the picture anymore.
There was this, I've got this, I want to do this sort of TV thing for the team, but a small segment of it is like an injury diary, so that people can get an idea of what the life of an injured rugby player looks like, or injured sportsman. I need to keep saying sportsman because it's probably all the same for most of us. And the shot would be from outside the gym with those doors, probably like dark, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then just one guy in the gym, alone. That's the guy that's injured.
And he's on a moon boot between his stations.
Or he's on crutches between stations, you know. And
goes to the rowing machine and he doesn't hook his legs in. It's just
and then you got like the quote, like, "This is not why I got into it." Like, it's not why I got into it. I did not get into team sports to be alone for 5 months in a row. Yeah? So it is difficult, but I think where we are here, we're quite lucky. We got an amazing rehab team. Like that rehab team with Joe, Nadia, Llewellyn, Hannes, everybody that looks after you in the gym. It is, if there was an alternative to being with the team, you would want it to be there. It's
a Stellenbosch Academy of Sport.
This is your payoff line.
Hashtag.
It's aggressive. It's competitive. It's everything that, not everything, but they try and mimic as much as possible. It's disciplined. It's generally harder work, or at least longer hours than most of the guys spend on the field, or their own training. I mean, a regular. If I was trying to remember now, like in the ACL program was probably 4 sessions a day. All alone. So it's your rehab session, then it's your strength session, and your cardio session. And then you've got treatment and either a complex or something like that, which is all, rehab is an hour, cardio is around an hour, strength is 45 to an hour, treatment is half an hour, complex is another half an hour. And again, just alone, like it's you and your thoughts, and you learn to listen to a lot of podcasts then. And like the ankle was the only time I ran on the Alta G, and that was painful, like not physically painful, like you're running at sub-max like effort, like very low effort, like 40-50%, which this is not what we do. We don't run like that. There's a couple lots of props. Yeah. So it's an anti-gravity treadmill that you kind of stand. It's this bubble that goes around your waist, and there's a treadmill around it, and it inflates and it lifts you a little bit. So it takes the pressure off the joint that you're trying to rehab, but at the same time allowing you to get back into the motion of running. So it's a very cool machine, and it's a very weird feeling when you stop because you feel like 150 kilos. And it was that, like you just go run for an hour, and you're running at a very slow pace, so you're not really even trying that hard. And like I don't know, for me that was difficult.
Mind-numbing.
Yeah, it is a bit mind-numbing. So then that was the first time I started listening to podcasts. It was quite interesting.
So what are some of the tips you give to not only the injured player, but maybe the other teammates?
So the one conversation we've had all the time is when you're in rehab, and so the guys will like walk past after a session, maybe a hard session. Okay, they would have had like a wrestling and a fitness session combined, and they'd be like, "Yeah, lekker op vakansie, ne?" And it's boys being boys, like it's very chilled, and it's very like, just sporting a little bit, like making a little bit of a joke and everything. And like obviously you don't want to stray too much, like, don't be so bloody sensitive, man. But the thing is, you're sitting there, you've been excluded for 2 months already, you're still going to be excluded for another 4 to 6 months. You're alone, you don't want to be there. At no point in your life did you say like, yep, I'll do rehab for 6 months, thanks. That's exactly where I want to be. I don't actually want to be with my mates on the field doing what I love doing. And one thing that we've also tried to talk about in the sevens environment is that, like, when you are making your jokes, just be conscious that you have no idea what day that person's having. You don't know what happened at home that day. You don't know what happened at home the last night. You don't know what's happening in his environment. So try to be a little bit more aware to body signals. So where a person is, you know, I mean, if a guy's looking duck back and he's sitting there, he's looking sad, he's about to cry, don't go tell him that he's being lazy and he must be enjoying his holiday here and everything like that, you know. So I think we try to work a bit on that emotional awareness around those kind of things. And then the jokes are a tough one because you still want to keep the light-hearted environment.
Yes.
And yes, it can look like a guy on rehab. He's on holiday half the time because he's just cruising, but he's also on his own schedule. They give us a schedule which is separate to the team schedule. So there's a lot of, it's not aligned all the time.
That's one of my questions. Shouldn't it be aligned? Shouldn't they try and do some of the sessions on the field next to the guys?
Sure, but for not efficiency, it doesn't just work. The thing is, we've got a whole setup of management here. We've got 5-6 staff that are here, and we plan our schedule around what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, their time schedule.
And then you've got Joe and Nadia, who've got their own responsibilities with not just, we are one of their clients.
Yeah.
You know, they've got 5 or 6 clients, and then they've got a bunch of private clients in between that. So we consume time. So for us, a field session is an hour, but 45 minutes before that, we start a video session. Half an hour before that, there's an activation session. Yeah, so then it's a video session. Then it's like milling your way across to the field, which is a brisk 5-minute walk, but our pace is at about 12 minutes. And then you boot up. Then you do a warm-up for 15 minutes. Like, they don't have that kind of time to come, like, park next to the field and do this. They've got half an hour here. This is where... So Joe's so busy. He comes, and if he trusts you enough, he'll explain the session to you, pop in, and then he will check in on you. You know, for other guys, he might stand and be there, you know, but for guys like the older guys where I know what he's trying to achieve out of the program, he can give me the program and he can just make sure that, is the intensity correct? Is your form fine? You know, he'll come back, he'll say, not like that, a little bit different here, and then walk away again. And that's all I needed. You know, some guys need a little bit more attention like that, but guys are busy, you know, you can't expect them to be, come, let's make everything kumbaya and everybody together as one. We are
just not practical.
We are asking for the best people to rehab us, you know. So we've got to respect that they have their own schedule, and I think that's for everybody. You know, everybody that is a sort of a service provider to us. So we can't always just say, "Hey, you must fit in, or otherwise you don't coach us." We're also not the center of the universe.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think the injury space is a very difficult one. There's you're asking for tips. I remember Vanna used to write a journal. He said he through his ACL, the journal worked quite well. For me, it's like support network, people to go home to that are like, you know, keeping positive. Positivity is huge. Like it's very quick to fall off that edge and be negative, because often what happens in a long-term rehab is that you'll be progressing so well and then a knockback. And you're progressing so well, and you see the light, and then you get knocked back, and then it's not light anymore, and you progress so well. So there will always be, and after like that many surgeries, I was like, at one point, I'm just waiting for something to happen. But very realistic, I'm like, you know, I don't mind, it's okay. We're progressing very nicely, but I think something's going to happen soon. Great, something didn't happen. Lekker. So we'll carry on. But if it does, it's okay. You know, I think, and a lot of that for me, like, for the younger guys, it's desperation to get back on the field. So they're so damaged when they get that, you know, 3 steps forward, 1 step back. They hit so hard. I missed another week. But if you, like, right at the end now, you can look at it and you're like, bigger picture, what was a week or 2 weeks in 10 years or 12 years? Again, not everybody's lucky to have a 12-year career or 11-year career, whatever it was. But I was, and it's not anything. To make sure things are right, to make sure that your body's right to go back on the field, because that's, again, the other discussion is, do you go in at 90 or 85%? That's because it's enough. It is enough. You probably play at 85% most of the time. But a compromised joint or ligament or something like that, you prefer that's 100% before you go back.
And what about the emotional, mental part of it? I mean, through the rehab, is there anyone guiding you, paying attention to that, or Is that all on you? And your wife or your girlfriend?
I have a new friend, a very close friend after the whole thing. Nadia is a very close friend of mine now.
Because of all the rehab.
She's seen me cry more times than most of my mates, and she's been a really good support system for me. So Nadia did both of my ACLs, and she did my shoulder rehab in 2014.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, like backwards and forwards and you box, and I'm somebody that likes to understand a lot of things, so I ask a lot of questions, and that frustrates the hell out of her because she's just like, shut up and go do your rehab, and then there'll be like cardio will be like 2 minutes on the stepper, 2 minutes on the treadmill, 2 minutes on the bike, and it's 8 rounds, and I'm trying to do the maths in my head, 8 times 6, and I'm like, that is 48 minutes, and that's not accounting for breaks in between. I'm like, then I started a negotiation. I said, it's been a long day. What if we do 6 sets? And
and Nadia must love it.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely
She's
love
my physio too. I know she would.
Yeah. So for her, it's kind of like, I have a reason for you doing 8. Now go do the 8.
Yes.
Just shut up and go do it.
There's no Q&A here.
Shut the F up.
Yeah. So no. I think a big part of it is it's kind of like a surgeon's bedside manner. Everybody's going through a difficult process, and Joe in his way, in his like stern, just trust me, we will get there and we'll be better at the end. That gives you a lot of assurance going through. But both of them, I've dealt with both of them for long-term rehabs, and they're both phenomenal. That like, if you are having a tough time, open your mouth, say something. And I think that's the biggest hurdle for most guys, is just open your mouth.
And don't know how to talk, don't know how to share.
Don't know how to talk.
Yes,
it's not actually, maybe it's not that, maybe it's not even being aware of what they're feeling.
Yes.
They might not even have a clue, what is this? Why am I so angry today? And what Joe can be quite good at sometimes is that he will look at you and he will literally say, fuck off, go home. You're not training today. Come in. First thing in the morning, you come with a shitty attitude. Go away, bro. I don't need you here for this. And you're like, what's happened? You didn't come in with a smile, so go away. What do you want to do here? So it's probably 60 to 70% emotional. The rehab side of things. If I had to put a number on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Huge. The positivity. Is so for me, the last 2 rehabs of the ACL was like, I'm not rushing to get back on the field, so any bit of gain is happiness, and I'm fine, I'm enjoying myself. I just had my kids, so you know what, it's quite cool to be at home also. Hell, I'd love to be on the field, but there's nothing I can do about this, so I'm going to enjoy this time.
Yeah.
Yes, what a wonderful time it had for me. It was difficult, but I think it would have been twice as difficult if all I had to look forward to every single day was rugby, and all I had to focus on was rugby and getting this injury right. And rehab. It would have been, painful.
What am I watching on Netflix tonight?
Yeah.
If I can add my 2 cents to that, I think what's interesting about anger is we usually use anger to suppress the softer emotions.
Yeah.
There's softer emotions going on, we don't know how to express it or how to even become aware of what it is, and we use anger to suppress that. So as a teammate, as a coach or whatever, I think that's a massive thing to understand, because you don't want to engage with a guy that's angry. Right? You leave him alone, you avoid him, but actually you have to go.
You need to understand it.
Really engage. That's the time you need to engage
and unpack it a little bit
and be curious.
What I was talking about earlier was understanding where everybody is it if a guy is smiley and chirpy 99% of the time, and there's a day where all of a sudden he snaps, and the first thing you would be is that you can snap back. But ideally, the first thing you do is, oh, that's out of character for this guy. That's not like him at all. Maybe I should just ask him if everything's okay. As opposed to going, hey, shut up, man, why you talk to me like that? You know what a person's like. You spend every single day here at training with him. You get a very clear picture of what this guy is like in almost every situation. And this is way out of character. And it's up to you to decide how you react to that, And if you give him the time of day and say, listen, is everything okay? And that, it helped me a lot in the last couple of years, especially captaining the side. Starting to become a little bit more aware of that. And all it takes is sometimes just to start the conversation. Is everything okay?
That's enough.
And the great thing about our team is that I might not be able to connect with somebody on that level, but I know somebody who will. Cecil might be able to connect better. Philip might be able to connect better. Frankie at a time might be able to connect better. Frankie doesn't usually connect, he just bashes the door right down.
Yeah.
Which also helps.
It's a way, because some guys brick it up, you know. So you need a Frankie.
Yeah.
Come in, and that kind of connection, to open that up, is then it's like it's starting to explore that. Then it's asking the right questions. You know, what's happening inside, and what do you feel about that, and you know, like, and with that comes so much relief. You know, all of that comes flying out, and with it goes the anger. The anger's gone. You know. So
you're running out of time, right?
I have to pick up Ethan at p:30, but I mean, not like strict p:30.
Okay, I'll edit this bit out. This time discussion. But maybe we want to jump to some of the funny stories. Rugby usually gives us some great stories to tell, so maybe you've got something to share with us.
So I'll be honest with you. I mean, I just hit a link right back to Frankie's podcast on this one. I'm sure he had like 100. I don't know, how serious was Frank? Was he serious?
It was actually very good.
In and out, we laughed a lot. And, but
he will make you laugh. He's got a lot of good stories. So he's probably 30 to 40% factual, and then it's like Frankie embellishment. Space for Frankie to grow in that space there. So,
Franklosophies.
Franklosophies, and Frankie colouring in sort of wherever the lines take him. You know. Stories, yes, I'm a horrible storyteller. We've got some interesting stuff. Like, I think there wasn't like much prank. There was some pranks, but there wasn't like a junior senior initiation thing. And I think Kevin Laters came in once in Dubai, and he played for us in Dubai. And I don't know, Frank, like it's impulse stuff. Frankie does impulse things, you know. And if there was ever a prank, it was Frankie and probably Chris involved. And at some point, Frankie got hold of Kevin Laters with strapping, and there was it wasn't this situation, but if Frankie had strapping and he was going to get you, he'd probably mummify your face. Like, that was one thing. But in this situation, he like hog-tied him. He had like around his hands and around his feet. And then I think he might have even gone feet to hands after that, you know. And then they put him in the lift, and then they press ground. And so like this thing opens up, and there's this dude like rolling around on the ground, and he can't touch a button, he can't get out of the lift, and I don't know what people saw at the bottom, but I can only imagine this door opens up and they're like horrified, you know. It's in Dubai in the Middle East, and I'm not really sure what's going on here, you know. He's stolen another sheikh's wife or something.
Middle East is probably not a good place to play, Jacks. They'll chop your hands off.
Yeah, I mean, there was that, and there was, with less success, there was guys trying to put like cling wrap over the toilet. That's just, and then there were a couple of suitcases that used to float in baths if things didn't go well. there was always like an ongoing thing with Mr. Hugh, our physio, and Frankie. They always used to have a thing, and Hugh always used to try and play this like that he wiped his ass with a piece of toilet paper, but he would actually just put coffee and water and it would look a bit brown, but then you leave like an unraveled toilet paper on the floor. Others would lose their minds. There are other things, like if you were in the dining room and you saw Hugh getting like to the cheese stand, then he would generally go get a nice big piece of blue cheese or something like that. And then like he always had a long game, you know, so it would sit in his fridge. Or might not sit in his fridge.
A long game, I love it.
You know? And then one day, like maybe we'd be at the airport, or you'd be loading up the bags, and you would see him unzipping somebody's like front pouch of his bag and just put some blue cheese in there.
Oh.
You know, and some of those bags, like once you get home after 2 weeks, you got a week off, you rip some clothes out, and then the bag just lies there in your room, and you're like, a week later, you're like, well, what's going on?
I'm sure I washed my boots.
I already put my boots outside. What's this?
Frankie told us one day about Ashley Everett's suitcase that they tied to the
like the balustrading.
At the airport, and he pulled everything along with him.
That's another thing. So when you're unloading, so the expectations when you arrive at the airport, like everybody helps, you know, everybody jumps in, and you put your wheelie bag to a side there, and everybody's jumping in and helping. And then there's one doers that like he's got all the cable ties, and he's just like a little ninja floating around. And he might just be like, have the cable ties, and he'd be like, yeah, here's 2 cable ties, do something with those, you know? Yeah. And then he'll walk away.
Like tie your wheelie bin to the turnstile.
Next thing you know, like you'll come back and there'll be like 4 bags cable tied around the balustrade. You're like, oh, this is so annoying. Like, you know, it's not bad. It's just bloody annoying. And I think what that situation with Ash's bag was the only bag, so it didn't quite look like there was a big bundle. It was just parked next to the thing. And I think he got upset with something. I think he got frustrated. So he kind of like stormed off, grabbed his bag and pulled. And it was like, like a whole bunch of them over. And I think that's where it got more funny, because he was already angry, and then this happens, and it's like, just get it out of here, you know. But we're not huge pranksters. I mean, like, if you spend time with Frankie, you saw some weird shit. So like that's, you know, he used to room with Boom, and Boom kind of like takes anything, you know. He fights back every now and then, but like he's horribly scared of needles. So obviously Frankie went and got a needle there. You know?
What are you afraid of? Okay,
is the spiders? Fine, I'll find you a spider. And he got a needle, and we were in the Gold Coast, and I'm just sitting in the room with Boom and Frankie, and then Frankie leaves, and then he comes back and he like pulls out a needle. Like Boom levitates over a bed. He was levitating over beds. And it's not even a big hotel room. It's a regular hotel room. But Frankie's chasing him around the hotel room with a needle. And Boom's almost in tears. But he's like running through doors and he doesn't want to get touched by this needle. More stuff with Frankie. We had a guy, Sibu Sutole. He's still playing for the Sharks.
Yeah.
The Sharks. And he's obviously like, he's super scared of like, frogs and snakes and things like that. And we had for George, we stayed at Fan Court. Was it fact? No, this was actually in Potch. We had a camp in Potch once. And again, spontaneity, walking down the path back from dinner, and there's a frog. So Frankie's like, great, grab a frog. You know, grabs the frog. Picks up the frog. He doesn't care. And Sibu's lying in his bed underneath the covers. And then you do kind of like load it up a bit. Then you got somebody on the camera. So Peter Engelbrecht was on the camera.
Yeah.
And then he even messed up the camera because he got the front-facing camera and he pressed record. And he's like, you see the video, he's like, oh, don't, and he turns it around. And then they walk in and he throws the frog onto Sibu's bed. Yeah, more levitation. The guy like rose out of the bed and he started sprinting out of there. And I was like, somebody's going to tear something. Like, surely you don't move that quickly without warming up, you know? And so it's those kind of small things. They're not like grand gestures, but they create good, funny moments, you know. And Frankie was generally at the heart of most of them. He knew how to be very serious and then knew how to keep things light-hearted also. He had a good mix of the two. Well, the one time in the hotel, Chris and somebody else lived across from each other. Frankie took strapping again and rope and tied their doors together. You can open a little bit, another person's open, another person. So like small things like that just keeps you entertained. You know, tours get long, time gets long, and you spend a lot of time in each other's pockets. So
you visit some great places, Hong Kong, and London, and Paris, and
so not
Potch,
even that. We played in Colombia, in Cali, Colombia, in the World Games in 2015. We played in Moscow for the World Cup in 2013.
Yeah.
The other World Games, my first World Games in 2009 was in Kaohsiung in Taiwan. Like, there's really amazing places that we play rugby in, you know? And that's the cool thing about Sevens is that they do that. You know, it's a bit of a platform to take rugby to places that don't usually get it.
Yeah. Cool.
Played in Swakopmund, that was Swakop, you know. So there's good stuff. Lots of different venues.
And besides being a sports transition specialist in training, you also delved into your coffee passion.
Yeah. Myself and Philip and Cecil, we started something, and like, if you want to know more about coffee, our coffee, then go to 18coffee.co.za. It's the number 1818, and like, you don't want to give away too much. You should read in on the story on the website.
We'll include a link. We'll include a link, definitely.
So we love coffee. The thing about coffee was that in Sevens we don't have much of a drinking culture. So a lot of our time is spent in coffee shops because you're either in a hotel or the training field, or you need to get out somewhere. So it was coffee. And what I found also with exploring cool coffee shops in like a Vancouver or London is they're offering the coolest places too. You know, they're very hipster, trendy kind of things. So by default, you're in the coolest places already. Oh, that's interesting building. I'll have another coffee, please.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, it was all about coffee. For me, like, facilitates good conversation and time spent together, and that was a big part of it. And then obviously it was how to stay mates and keep together after rugby finishes. So we started coffee, and we started 18 Coffee, and something that we're enjoying. It's a very competitive space, but people seem to like it. It's a pretty decent cup of coffee. We've tried to create something that appeals to a wider group. I think with the coffee spectrum, I think there's some really hardcore specialty coffee that's incredibly rich in flavor, but might not be palatable to the general public. And in South Africa, we're very much a fan of like the nutty and chocolatey flavors in coffee, and that's kind of what we see as coffee. So we try to provide something that's really enjoyable, easy drinking, but well priced also. So we went in quite competitively. I think we like 65 Rand for a 250 gram bag, and 240 for a 1 kilo. And yeah, so we're trying the online ordering.
Okay, so
model.
people can order online as well.
Yeah, we teamed up with Aramex, like they came on board, so they are our courier partner.
Okay.
Those little Dropbox bags, and if you order before like 3 o'clock on a day, then we'll generally get it to you the next day. And it's worked well. Like we've sent to some interesting locations, and it's got there either within a day or 2 days. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Bloom was 2 days. I was a bit disappointed by that. I thought that was like a hub, but apparently it's quite fun.
Definitely not a hub.
How can people contact you if they want to organise a talk or something like that? Is this?
We're on social media. I mean, my email is quite straightforward with the coffee, so it's Kyle@18coffee, the number 18coffee.co.za. And you can actually get hold of Cecil and Philip on those. On their own respective ones, but ultimately, I'm going to be the one answering them the emails, so you can contact them through me too.
Okay.
So we've do a fair bit of those chats, conversations, and it's always interesting to find out what the school wants to talk about or what the company wants to talk about and how we can align that. I think a lot of people look in on the Sevens team and they think it's a cool team, where ultimately what we're doing is we're doing what we love doing with a smile on our faces and getting some decent results. So you're kind of checking the boxes, It's not painful to be here and getting results, because that's a bit of a poor alignment. I think we've got some really good people here driving a pretty cool setup, and what will be interesting for me over the next couple of years is how things transition with my era that I was part of. So like the Philip, Cecil, Chris, Branko, when those guys ultimately, Frankie's probably one of the first to leave out of there, then me. When those guys all leave, how things are stable, how things are stabilized over that time, and if we've done enough, because ultimately it's our responsibility to grow the leaders around that, to continue that, and if we've done enough to make sure that they see the value in a good, strong culture, they see the value in the values we have, and if we've built leaders strong enough to drive that. Because for me, it's not really the coach or the management's responsibility. It's our team. And we need to make sure that we push that all the time. So it's an interesting model. I think a lot of people come in and they'll be like, oh, you don't have a fine system. Like, we don't have a fine system. Punishment is done fairly internally, often amongst the players. One of our biggest one of those. One of the biggest punishments is just not taking part anymore. You can just sit out there. And
That's worse.
For me, I don't know. I think guys, it's something we try to create something that is you're so happy, you so want to be part of, that the worst punishment is being told you can't be part of this. Yeah. Either momentarily or permanently, and that's challenging. On a slightly separate note, a lot of guys that leave the setup and they go play 15s or they go play this or they go play wherever, France or whatever it is, they generally don't leave the WhatsApp group. They stay. They stay and there'll be times where they're obviously going through some tough times on that side. They say, yes, boys, I miss you guys.
Wow.
And it's not, because we have, I think, less of the emphasis is put on rugby in that kind of maybe in this environment and the WhatsApp group, and more is on the friendship of things. But for me, that's quite a cool little thing, is that guys don't leave the WhatsApp group. When you leave a WhatsApp group, it's final.
Yeah, that is. That's it. You can't join.
I don't even want to talk to you guys again. You don't get re-invited to a WhatsApp group. That's ridiculous.
No, and you can't just follow or friend or something again. That's it.
It's invitation only.
Yeah.
So what we have tried to create a happy home, that's because and again, that's a whole other story on its own. You know, like the types of people that we want to involve, the amount of resources we have. We don't have unlimited resources, so you deal with the resources you have, and then you've got to be creative with what you do with the space, with what you do with the people, and what kind of environment you create. So we often have, sometimes we've had discussions, not often, we've had, like, if you look at the salary discussion, so say we can reach a certain amount, and then a 15's offer comes along that's say 20-30% more. How much do you place on the happiness that you have here, on the travel, you know, the experience of being part of this team, where we go? We have a bonus structure on performance, which also plays a factor. But ultimately, one of the big drivers is like, are you going to be happy there? You know, and what is that worth to you? Because and then again, are you going to play there? So some guys are very happy to take the money, but then they sit and then they get all dick-picked, like, oh no, I'm not getting picked here. You were being picked every game here.
Yeah.
You know, I can't say that to you. They're like, listen, what are you not seeing? You're in a good space here. And that was one of my discussions when I was about 25, 26. You know, everyone was, are you going to go play Super Rugby? And I thought, well, not even Super Rugby, Curry Cup. And I thought, like, I'd just been made captain maybe a year or two ago. And I can go, like, hack it at Curry Cup and I can try and make my own new pathway and everything. Or I've got a really good thing going here. Like, what the hell would I'd be so stupid. And it's something I will never, ever regret is staying here.
Wow.
Never, ever, ever. And I think there's a lot of that could have happened outside of sevens in the 15 space. But ultimately, when I look back, like, that would be one of my happiest moments, is going, focus on this, bro. Stay here. Be part of this thing as it grows. And then, of course, like the medals and that shit, that's very cool to have also.
You're an Olympian.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that.
That is also an interesting discussion in South Africa because it's not really understood.
Olympic medalist.
It's massive.
Just an Olympian.
Yeah, just being there.
You know, you can, like, when you write in, so you get this letter kind of invitationally that says if you just register here, then you can use the, I never know what you call them, those letters after your name. So, like, for a doctor, it would be MB, CHP, whatever it is.
Okay.
You can get letters after your name, OLY. They're like an Olympic athlete, it's a thing. It's an actual thing.
So, do you have that now?
No, definitely
You
not.
should.
The same way I don't have the rings on my ass, you know. I don't need them.
It's on the list though, right?
When I hit 40 and I have my midlife crisis, then I'll tattoo those rings quick in full Technicolor. That's also a tough discussion, is not understanding the gravity of the Olympics in this country. Like, we just don't have what we call an Olympic culture here.
No.
For us, peak is Rugby World Cup, which is cool. But in sevens, our peak is the Olympics. We had our Sevens World Cup last year. It kind of happened, and did anybody really mind? You know. But this we get probably a similar reaction. I think for South Africa, it's bigger. South African fans, it's bigger for us to win the World Series than it is for us to win Olympics. But Olympics is something else. I gained a whole new perspective on what it's about, and just participation. It gave me, like, a new insight into what actually sport means.
Wow.
We've got this real, like, this pretty poor win at all costs, must win in South Africa attitude to sport. And you arrive at the Olympics and you know 95% of these dudes are not going to win anything. Why do they come?
It's probably more than that.
Yeah, probably. I don't even know what the stats are in terms of medals and things versus the participants. But here it's like you get sent to the Olympics if you're a medal hopeful. There, for most of it, it's like people are going to represent their country, to do their country proud at the highest level they're capable of from their country.
Give their best.
Give their absolute best for something that they love, you know. And it's incredibly inspiring to see all these guys who walk past you like, no medal for you, no medal for you, and you're kind of like, what are you doing here, bro? But then you click and you're like, oh, they want to compete at the absolute highest level and proudly with their country's flag behind them. That's it, you know.
Wow. It seems we should do another episode with you. There's a lot more there.
Part 1 and part 2.
We should probably get an agenda or something and have topics.
We had one, but we didn't even touch on it. That's why I was checking my phone. No, it's great. It's great stuff. Thank you very, very much for
Thanks,
That was super. It really was great.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I like it, bro. I'm round 2 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe things are changing quickly, so maybe my insight into things will have warped my perspective.
Yes, and you can give us the step-by-step guide into the transition.
Yeah, that is a grey world.
It's very great.
Keep
Very
going.
great.
Keep going.
Thanks, gents. Appreciate
Cheers.
it.
Cool.
Just a side note, our coaching brain corner ace is currently busy running coaching programs in Italy, so he'll be back in a couple of weeks' time.